The White House ceasefire expiring within hours Wednesday on Iran time, to be exact. Any deal talks hanging in the balance. And Vice President J.D. Vance could be headed to Pakistan as soon as today regarding that. Now, this from the Associated Press, which is reporting that the U.S. and Iran have signaled they will send negotiators to Pakistan. We're standing by for all of this to break apart and come together. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. The Department of War has released some brand new video showing U.S. forces boarding a stateless oil tanker in the Indian Ocean. Some background on that ship that you're looking at. Last summer, it was part of U.S. sanctions on targeting vessels involved in illicit petroleum trade. The State Department says the tanker conducted at least 2 ship-to-ship transfers of Iranian oil. The ship participated in what they call dark activity. That's the deliberate disabling or manipulation of tracking systems to obscure a vessel's movements. The United States sanctioned the ship's commercial manager for knowingly facilitating a transaction involving Iranian petroleum products. Here is President Trump.
What I think is that we're going to end up with a great deal. I think they have no choice. We've taken out their Navy. We've taken out their Air Force. We've taken out their leaders. We have 47 years where these bloodthirsty people have been killing a lot of soldiers, a lot of our soldiers, and a lot of other people. Unarmed protesters, innocent unarmed protesters, many of them hung. So we're not dealing with the nicest group of people, but we're dealing with them very successfully.
The Institute for the Study of War reports 2 top Iranian regime leaders could be at odds over how the Islamic Republic will proceed on peace talks and regarding the Strait of Hormuz. So they're fighting. One of them is Iran's parliament speaker. He issued this new warning to President Trump. Quote, Trump, by imposing a siege and violating the ceasefire, seeks to turn this negotiating table in his own imagination into a table of surrender or to justify renewed warmongering. We do not accept negotiations under the shadow of threats. And in the past 2 weeks, we have prepared to reveal new cards on the battlefield. Now, what does that mean? Do they have new weapons? Former Army Special Ops intelligence analyst Bret tVelicovich with me on that moments from now. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin starts our coverage from Washington, D.C. Jennifer.
Harris, on the eve of these talks with Iran and Pakistan, the U.S. is expanding its target list, interdicting an oil tanker from Iran's shadow fleet in the Pacific. On April 6th, the Tiffany loaded 1.9 million barrels of Iranian crude oil from Karg Island and was trying to transport that oil to China before interdiction. The Treasury Department sanctioned the crude oil tanker last July. The State Department said twice in recent months the vessel had loaded Iranian oil in ship-to-ship transfers with U.S.-sanctioned Iranian-flagged tankers while conducting, quote, dark activity near Singapore. The Pentagon said in a statement, quote, as we have made clear, we will pursue global maritime enforcement efforts to disrupt illicit networks and interdict sanctioned vessels providing material support to Iran anywhere they operate. But according to Lloyd's list, a widely trusted shipping analysis company, more than 24 dark fleet vessels have continued moving in and out of Iranian ports, as well as exporting Iranian origin cargo since the U.S. blockade began last week. U.S. Central Command says it has turned around more than 27 ships traveling to or from Iran since the blockade began in that same time frame. On Sunday night, Marines with the 31st Expeditionary Unit seized the MV Tuska, landing on the ship after rappelling from a helicopter after a 6-hour standoff. The U.S. forces seized an Iranian-flagged cargo vessel headed for the Iranian port Bandar Abbas. It is the first time Marines boarded a vessel since the blockade began. Central Command released video showing the operation to take the Tuska after its engine room was hit and disabled by rounds fired Sunday from the destroyer USS Spruance. Marines from the Okinawa, Japan-based 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, or MEU, then flew by helicopter from the amphibious assault ship USS Tripoli and rappelled onto the deck of the Tuska and took the ship into U.S. custody. The Tuska remains in U.S. custody as officials search its cargo. Harris, the ship has a history of sailing between China and Iran, recently stopping in Zhuzhou, China, and Malaysia before this incident. Reuters reports that there were dual-use items on board, Harris.
So does this mean that China is somehow getting its hands on all of this? Do we know that?
Well, what it looks like is that China and Iran's oil is still being sent through the Stark fleet to China, and also that China may be sending banned materials to Iran in return. Harris.
Jennifer, thank you very much. Critics are outraged. A Democrat lawmaker this morning was denying he was cheering a report of 26 Iran-linked vessels evading the U.S. blockade. Well, you can read what he posted. It looks like it. It's in all caps. He thinks it's awesome. This is Senator Chris Murphy reacting with one word about reports of vessels going around our blockade. Now, this is since the beginning of this all started. It's not in a day. He doesn't mention a timeline, anything. He is going for full flex and attention here, and boy, did he get some. Critics were quick to respond. Politicians have been censured for far less. This one word should cost you re-election. One poster saying, Murphy exhibited disgusting anti-American behavior. A spokesperson for the senator's office called the tweet sarcasm or post. The senator followed up with this. Okay, Twitter, I can't believe I need to clarify this, but obviously Trump's bungled mismanagement of this war is not awesome. As I have said a million times, here, it's a disaster and he should end the war immediately. My tweet was something called sarcasm. Which part? All of that is. I can't even tell. Bret tVelicovich is a former Army Special Ops Intel analyst and Fox News contributor. All right, I just want to start with that point because I often hear you and others who've served say, we need to be on the same page as we go forward. This is not only not on the same page, he is loud and proud.
Well, it's embarrassing what he did, Harris. And, you know, he should sit down with some of the soldiers who are missing limbs right now from Iranian bombs. We need to all be collectively working against this threat. And the Iranians want us to fractured internally. That's what's worked for them in the past. That's how they've won in the past. And they've whistled past all of these peace processes before and haven't been held accountable. But for me, look, more than a week into this blockade, the scoreboard really tells the story of what's working and what isn't. 27 ships have already turned around. That's deterrence in real time. That means the strategy of the U.S. military and this administration is working even before headlines catch up. The U.S. Navy doesn't need to fire a missile every time to prove dominance now. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is credibility. Sometimes the best diplomat in the room, Harris, is often the U.S. aircraft carrier parked offshore. And when illicit commercial vessels now see American warships enforcing the straits and decide to reverse course, that means the message landed. And President Trump, look, he said the blockade stays in full force until a deal is reached, and that is exactly the right posture. We need to get behind that, regardless of what side of the aisle you are on. And I see this administration doing finally what leadership from our country requires: protecting trade, protecting allies, making it clear that hostile regimes do not get rewarded for coercion. The U.S. military right now is not escalating the problem, it's imposing order. And right now, the world is being reminded of a simple truth: the global economy moves because the United States Navy allows it to move.
All right, real quickly on the what they're saying are those ships that have gone around the blockade, 26 of them since the beginning of all of this. Your take on that? How easy or hard is that to patrol in addition to everything that the United States is doing?
Well, it's definitely difficult, but it's a mission for the U.S. military. And look right now how the regime itself is already responding to all this. You know, they're talking about these new battlefield cards, but we're seeing public infighting between the parliament speaker and IRGC leadership because of this blockade. There's visible confusion at the top.
So it's
That's
working.
what pressure does. it exposes fractures because they're running out of options. And President Trump said they're confused. And frankly, that may be the most accurate battlefield assessment of the week. Then there's this execution of another protester inside Iran.
Yeah.
That should remind everyone, by the way, watching this, who this regime actually is. This is not some misunderstood regional actor. It's a government that kills its own people to stay in power while the world, looks at them and wonders how we can continue to let that happen.
All right, Bret, China. Jennifer Griffin, moments ago, I asked her about how much China would be involved in this, and do we know? She said what we do know is Iran's trying to move its oil and perhaps has been doing that, and China has been moving materials that they know that they should not be doing. So your take on China's role?
China's always going to be working with enemies of the United States. People should realize that. China is watching what we do. Russia's watching what we do. Every adversary is watching what's going on now. They are measuring whether America still has the will to enforce the global order that we built. Boarding ships, holding the blockade, refusing to blink under pressure. This is bigger than Iran. It tells the world that American leadership is real, physical, it's backed by force. And, we just can't let these enemies continue to get stronger. Now is not the time to let up. Otherwise, we're going to hand them survival, and we can't do that.
All right, real quickly, just the idea of, do you extend a ceasefire?
No, absolutely not. I mean, Iran spent decades surviving by dragging negotiations out, creating confusion, betting America loses patience first. This administration has to flip the script. There's no endless gray zone, no more fake diplomacy. They make a deal or there are immediate consequences that they can feel.
Bret tVelicovich, I know we hit a lot of topics there. I appreciate it so very much as we start this hour now with watching this situation like never before. It is down to the wire now, and the president means what he says when he takes those next steps. We will report what they are as they happen. Bret, thank you very much. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.